Life is dynamic, a mix of sweet and bitter pills. While some rejoice over achievements, some manage their achievements to suit them. Disabilities presents itself in different ways. Some are visible and others are invisible. Today, on Against All Odds, we're bringing some clusters of disabilities and how you can identify them when you come across them.
You know, I've always said that there is no health without mental health. And the earlier people come to terms with this, the better, because when you have a mental health challenge, a mental illness, mental disorder, as the case may be, everything about you crumbles. Many people are going through depression. Now, you made mention of awareness, and that's the aspect. A lot of people are not aware, or there is that denial, the refusal to accept the fact that this is what I'm going through. And you know, as a result of that, because people don't want to say, okay, this is it, so that people will be looking at me in a certain way. So this person all of a sudden has low mood, low energy, you know, and then loses interest in the things that he used to do or she used to do before. And then all of a sudden she's all on her own and all of that. So there is that. You see the person always sad, you know, sad. You know, people sometimes use it when they are not happy, they say I'm depressed. It has gotten to that level where you need diagnosis and you need attention medication. You mentioned bipolar. Now, bipolar is, I consider it like a depression with a sister. It's also a mood disorder that is characterized by emotional highs and emotional lows. So there are two episodes. That's why we call it bipolar. There are two episodes, the manic episode and the depressed episode. That's why I say that depression with a sister. So now, at one point, this person experiences low energy, low mood, loss of interest in activities once enjoyed and all of that. The person is all moody and all that and all that. At another point, the person experiences high energy, high mood, and high interest. For every illness, be it physical or there may have been something that triggered it. And in the case of mental illnesses or mental disorders, there has to be one trigger or the other. Maybe somebody, a disappointment, you lost your job, you know, and all of that, or you lose a loved one, and or that you just find yourself disappointed at one point or the other in your life. You are expecting promotion, it doesn't come. Virtually everybody is being promoted. Mental illness is just like, I've always told people, it's just like you having diabetes or having hepatitis and all of that. There are a number of other childhood disorders that we can talk about here, like separation anxiety disorder, when a child does not at any point in time want to be separated from his parent. He's always crying. Once you keep him with somebody or you take him to school, he's always jumping and crying. People do not actually know that there's a biological angle to whatever they go through in terms of mental health. The thing is this, the brain is a complex organ, right? It coordinates virtually I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm a clinical psychologist. It coordinates virtually everything that we do. The brain, everything flows from the brain. And in the brain, the human brain, there is what we refer to as the neurotransmitters. In the ordinary language, the language of the ordinary man, we call them the chemicals in the brain. So the neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, GABA, they are responsible for various things. Like the serotonin and dopamine are much more associated with mood. And you know, any activity that has to do with the feeling of pleasure and all that. So, for instance now, if there is a condition, a situation that triggers something that causes a malfunction in the, for instance, if there is, it causes a malfunction leading to a depletion in the supply of any of these neurotransmitters. For instance, now the neurotransmitter that is responsible for mood, serotonin, dopamine, if there is a depletion, a drastic reduction in the supply of the neurotransmitters, where does that lead the person to? Depression. So just make sure your lifestyle, you watch it. If you are taking anything in terms of, people do a lot of drugs these days and all that. Drug too can be, in fact, that one can trigger schizophrenia one time. You know, schizophrenia is like the mother of them all. Schizophrenia is what we call madness. Yes, what Nigerians call madness. So it can trigger you doing, and you may have been doing it for years, and you are doing drugs for years. This one time that you take it, you'll be shocked.
This is Against All Odds.
Under the autism syndrome, you might not find two that are the same. This one might have these characteristics, another might have. For my daughter, the characteristics were very different from what some other. Some have what they call this ADH hyperactivity, attention span and hyperactivity, restless. You see some of them, you've seen them, they cannot keep still and all that one. But in my own daughter's one, she was more of a quiet, docile one. In fact, we were more worried about that, you understand. So we had to do a lot of things to get her up. For a long time, she won't watch television with people, would rather keep to herself. But she would do things. She would hum songs. She would do things like that. So you will see such things that are reserved. You find that now she's just being able to make conversation. She cannot do conversation. She cannot tell a story, okay? But I realized that if she goes on the laptop, the computer, she can, her fingers, she can work on that. Realize that she is not very good in arts. So we found that in sciences, where she is more, she can take up numbers, calculations, equations. She could easily remember them. But if she wants to tell you about events of yesterday or day before yesterday or something, she say that, you know, she cannot frame it like that. Then growing up, you find that speech is delayed, and this thing they call dyslexia. Okay. You understand what dyslexia is there? Okay, but she has words, she has figures, she has them in her head, but to put them down, you know, took her time. Understand, like writing alphabets and numbers backward and such things. Those traits are there. And then not talking much, in fact. Those are the areas where we need to pay more attention, because where they don't talk, there's a lot going up on the inside. When they are hot, when people do them hot, and they might not be able to tell you, and they keep it to themselves. You understand? So like recently we realized that it's their depressive state, because they cannot express themselves. It makes them to be depressed. Now when you now see some of them being aggressive, it is accumulation of those things that they get to a melting point and then react. Get to a melting point and then react. They get to a melting point and then react. They get to a melting point and then react. They get to a melting point and then react. They get to a melting point and then react. They get to a melting point and then react. They get to a melting point and then react. 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 And then react.
This is against all odds.
I didn't notice anything. Doctors did not tell me anything. But when it started growing, at a stage of 1 year, and he have sickness that was disturbing him that time, we went to hospital at Asokoro. So the doctor that saw us that place examined him and said that we should take bed. So when we were there, he called me and my husband out and asked us question, do I believe that God is existing? I said yes. So he told me that they have checked everything, that they didn't see anything that happening to this boy, but they noticed that he's sick. So I shared, I cried. My husband consoled me that I supposed to put everything in the hands of God. Come, auntie is calling you, come. Oh yeah, wear this one. It's too big. Oh yeah. Greet auntie. Greet auntie.
How are you, Victor?
Far.
Are you shy?
Yes.
I'm shy.
Like now, like yesterday, I was surprised. He took all my plates, wash it for me. So at the time I discovered that he's not washing it well. The one that is senior started washing, then he was raising. And raise finish, he carries. If I eat finish, unless if he's not around now, he will be the one that pack my plates and go and keep it. And always they useful to tell me, Mommy, thank you ma. Once he eat finish. Even if I'm not around when he finish, he will wait. Immediately I come back, that is the first thing he will tell me. Then I will know that he already eaten. Or maybe he wake up in the morning, the first thing he used to tell me is, Mommy, good morning. Daddy, good morning, sir. If the daddy is not around, he greeted me. And he will hug all his sisters. So I keep on encouraging him and telling him that these people, love them as the way we love you. And everybody in our compound know him. Once he see you in the morning, whether you are a parent or you're not a parent, Mommy, good morning. Auntie, good morning. So that one, at least, is growing with it. But I still beg God that other ones, like to help, will increase on it.
This is against all odds.
Physical disabilities can include mobility impairments, amputations, and other physical challenges that can impact an individual's ability to move and navigate the world. These disabilities can create significant barriers to access and opportunity.
Movement, it's an issue. Going out in case of the transportation system is not accessible for persons with physical disability. It's really, really difficult. And in the workplace too, when workplaces are not accessible, for instance, I'm visiting an office that there is no lift, it's just steps. Climbing those stairs to the last building where I want to see a colleague or visit a friend is a challenge. And also when the transport system is not accessible, the drivers are not friendly to persons with disability. For instance, you know, when you are by the roadside, you stop a car, the car does not really stop in front of where you are. Sometimes it drives past you before it stops. So by the time I'm trying to navigate my way to where the car is, the driver is there shouting, "Won't you run?" Even when I try to run, because I'm using a prosthetic limb, I don't run that fast. Almost all the time the drivers drive past, as in before I get to where they stop, they drive and pass.
You know, managing disability generally is very expensive. If you will need a guide, it takes a lot to do that. And if you will do it alone, there are so many challenges, such as crossing the roads and how to even navigate your way when you are coming. Like now that I'm in my place of work, there are no landmarks around to show me that this is where I am. So I will always need someone to help me out. And if there's nobody, that means I have to stand there and wait for another person to come before assisting me. In fact, when we are going, some vehicles, once they stop and they see us coming with cane, they will drive away. They won't like to pick us. Secondly, like I was telling you about waiting for someone to help. Some will say they will not even hold your hand, they will prefer to hold your cane. Maybe they don't want to contact the disability you have or whatever it is. Some will say, just follow my voice and let's go. In most cases, we have people that help us out of sympathy, but very few help us out of empathy. It's somehow sad to see someone is using your disability to like intimidate you.
Sensory disabilities can include hearing and vision impairments, which can impact an individual's ability to communicate and access information. Assistive technology and accessible design can play a crucial role in overcoming these barriers.
Most of the challenges that deaf people face is communication gap. For example, when I come to the airport and I'm trying to check in, the person will speak and then I will tell him that I'm deaf. They are supposed to give me priority attention, but they'll now tell me, okay, wait, just hold on. And that's discrimination. Sometimes you come 1 hour before, and then by law says you should give priority to persons with disabilities. It is a right, not a privilege. I'm supposed to be given attention, but they will now tell you to wait. And that's discrimination. The other thing is, when I'm driving, FRSC, that's road safety, on the roads, they will now stop him and ask him for driving license. They will ask for his car papers, and then I'll now give it up. I'll bring out everything, and then they will now ask me a question. You are deaf, why are you driving? And then I'll ask them back, I'm deaf, yes, I have right to drive. It's my money that I use in buying the car, so I can drive to anywhere. I went to driving school and I learned how to drive. I can drive, so it's my right. Is there any policy that back up to say that deaf shouldn't drive? If not, you can take me to court. And when they understand that I know my right, they'll now say, okay, I can go. So these are some of the discrimination we the deaf are facing. And when it comes to communication, we the deaf, we need to have full access to communication, but we don't. That's our linguistic right. It is recognized by disability law. The UN Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities said that the national language for the deaf is sign language. So I am proud to be using sign language. And NTA are making more effort to recognize sign language interpreters on NTA. So more other televisions are copying from NTA what they are doing. So be it in the bank, in the hospital, or wherever, we need to have interpreters there.
Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Prohibition Act 2018. It is stated that the Commission should ensure and guarantee the rights of persons with disabilities. And one of those activities is to ensure they have access to public buildings, they have access to transportation, they have access to technologies. Basically, persons with disabilities, one of the problems is not the disability itself. The major problem is lack of accessibility and inclusion.
Despite the challenges they face, individuals with physical disabilities have shown incredible resilience and determination. Many have adapted and found ways to overcome these obstacles.
Computer is the most easiest device for a person with blindness to work if you are well trained. And so, because of the little knowledge I have in computer, I can be able to work in any department or in any ministry, provided that there are job allocations, like I'm allocated a job to do. So I use my computer to go through Microsoft Word I can create a new folder. I open the folder, then go ahead and start my work, whatever work I'm given.
It's not advisable for someone like this to finish school and start rigmaroling, looking for job around. And then you might, in that process, you might probably face difficulties. You may face some problem from other organizations. And so, please, we beg the government. We are urging them. We are presenting our intricacy that government should look at persons with disability, especially visual impaired persons, with kindness by providing automatic employment after school. Persons with visual impaired are like any other person. The only thing that makes them different is the sight. Okay? And as a visual impaired person, you can do anything that any other person can do.
I'm calling the attention of the federal government, private organizations, to make provision for sign language interpreters as a right, not a privilege to the deaf persons. Because once you have interpreters, that's the proper channel to follow. If you go to marketplace, no. That's my language. I'm a native language of the deaf, so I have to use sign language.
I think one of the problems is also awareness. We had a program some time ago in a big hotel. I won't mention that hotel. When I got in there, the first thing I told them, I said, this hotel is not accessible. It's a big hotel and, looks very okay. Maybe like 5-star hotel. They were shocked. I said, see, somebody on a wheelchair cannot come in here. What do I mean? I said, can somebody on a wheelchair come here? It's not possible. So many of the buildings in Abuja, they are not, they are not accessible. Many, they are not accessible. That's just the truth. We should not wait till when they come to us to tell us. We should also find out. We should find out about. You see, when you see somebody with disability, you should even be able to, relate with that person, naturally. The person can inform you about disability.
Despite the challenges and barriers they face, individuals with disabilities continue to push for a more inclusive and accessible world.
Acknowledging the productive capacity of people with disability and how much they can contribute to GDP and to national development. Of course, it's important that we develop products that would aid them achieve their innate capabilities and also contribute to national product development. And by this, NOTAP as an agency supports inventors and innovators that are researching around assistive technologies. One of them is an individual who has developed a cane for the visually impaired, and what we do is try to see how some of these inventions are protected, and also by way of promotion trying to see how we can get investors and even funding for scaling those inventions. We try to identify what those technologies are, and we can only get it when we work with the people with disability, knowing their needs and also collecting information from them as to what products they need.
By investing in assistive technology and accessible design, we can create a world that is more accommodating and accessible.